Hey everybody, Bryce Koon here with another episode of Swarm Talk. We're talking at Georgia Tech. It's a bye week. We still got some more to go over as we take a deeper look 2 weeks after Brent Key was named interim head coach. Where are we, and what does the future of Brent Key look like at Georgia Tech? I'll give you my thoughts as we start right now.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The crowded booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
What's up, everybody? Bryce Koon here with Swarm Talk. We are the Crowded Booth, presented by Section 103. Go check them out. They've got some of the best stuff in the business. I want to show you this right here because it's some really, really good stuff. Some of the best gear, more comfortable than the club seats, made by a Georgia Tech grad. The only place you're going to get that ATL logo right there. Does a fantastic job, so make sure that you check them out. Section 103, use code Crowded Booth for 10% off your first order. Well, let's talk about this right now because it's the bye week, and I think if you would have gotten into the game after Duke and fans would have told you, hey, we're 3-3, and you woke up on a fantastic Wednesday like it is, and you said, hey, we're 3-3, I would have been shocked, just personally, but I think a lot of fans would be like, oh, okay, sounds great. That means Jeff Collins is probably still the head coach. The way that this team's got to 3-3, I don't think anybody could have predicted. So let's talk about this. We want to get it out of the way as we get ready for a fantastic weekend of just kind of sitting back and watching some college football. But then we get to turn around next week, get ready for a Thursday matchup against Virginia. I think it's key for us to talk about in this episode Brent Key, what he's done, and let's kind of review. Obviously, going back to the Pitt game, an emotional week for Georgia Tech, having to turn on a dime. Monday bled into Tuesday of the firing of Jeff Collins and Todd Stansbury. And so Key takes over, closed practices, closed to the media, and we see how the team responds on the road. Tough environment, both weather-wise and going up to Pitt against a tough team. You win that game. Then you come home for homecoming, and you beat a Duke team that, like I said last Friday in the preview show, not a team that is going to wow you, but a solid football team. And you get a win over a team that a lot of people felt like could challenge for the Coastal after their quick start, and will probably make a bowl game. So we turn the page with that. We get into the bye week, and you see where we are now with the schedule, and then you turn around and you look where you have to go. Virginia, then Virginia Tech. And you look to yourself, those are both very winnable games. 5-3, not out of the question. And then you say to yourself, okay, if at the end of the year we're saying that's a loss, I'm saying it's a loss. And look, I love fandom. I love the hope that fandom brings. Have fun with it. Run with it. I'm saying that's a loss. If you beat both Virginia schools, you get to 6, and you get to an opportunity to play for a 6th win, one of Florida State, North Carolina, and Miami. Let's say that you get it. Let's say that you get to 6 wins. And it brings up the case of the pros and cons of Brent Key and what's happening right now. I think, one, that he has tapped into the locker room more than they've seen the past 3 to 4 years. I think the emotions are running really high of what Georgia Tech has been able to do. Brent Key would be a solid option going forward. And I'll tell you this, too, and we talked about this on the episode, I think 3 episodes ago, and we talked about who are some of the best options. And a lot of you wanted to make comments, but you never watched the whole show all the way through. And he was an honorable mention. But I think the question we have to pose with Brent Key in this situation, while it might be good this year, and it may work out next year, what's the best decision for this program 5 to 7 years from now? What does that look like 5 to 7 years from now? Is Brent Key the option that can take you to the top of the ACC, which shouldn't be that difficult? But I think that this conference in general is very winnable. They're doing away with, obviously, divisions, and Georgia Tech can make strides, but does Brent Key get you there? And it's a feel-good story. And so I want to point that out, that right now it's a feel-good story with what he's been able to do, turning a corner with this program. But I don't know if it's the right decision for 3, 4, 5 years into the future for the program. Not saying that I don't like the guy. I think he plays on the emotional heartstrings of the fans, which is fantastic. He's a Tech guy. The donors love that. He obviously played there. He loves the place. And how he's conducted himself in the press conferences, what's there not to like so far? There's nothing not to like about Brent Key. But I think as a coach like Brent Key, you have to surround yourself with the right people, and you have to ask the question, what's the longevity of this situation? If they do remove the interim tag, let's say this team finishes 6-6 and goes to a bowl game. Whether they win or lose it, this season's a success. Not based off of what the preseason expectations were. It should be based off of where they were after the UCF game. And so I think that sitting at 1-3 after that game, knowing that you went 5-3 the rest of the way, it'll probably be enough to get him the job, and that's fine. But are you delaying where you could go as a program? And a lot of it depends on what other jobs come open. Look, since we did that episode, Wisconsin's come open. By the time that some of you may watch this episode, Auburn could have an opening this upcoming weekend if they lose badly enough against Ole Miss. And they're heading into a bye week as well. But I think the question you have to ask, what's the longevity of Brent Key as the head coach? How much success can he stretch out? Because right now it's emotional. And right now, a lot of it is they had zero coaching. We know that. We pointed it out in an episode, I think 4 episodes ago. You know it, I know it. So if this is becoming what the bare minimum needs to be, that's fantastic. You had to get back up there. And I've preached that to a lot of fans. You've got to get back to the bare minimum. But what could take you to an 8-9 win season? Is he that option? And he very may well be, but you can't make the decision to hire a coach based off an emotional feel. And I like the guy. I think that he is going to be a real option going forward. And maybe he does turn around. Maybe they go, they save money by hiring him, and they can go get a high-flying assistant. I don't know, and I'm not sure where they're going to go with that. A lot of it will depend on the AD chase that we're rumored to hear or continuing here. Obviously, will end around November the 1st, a couple weeks from now. But I think it does beg the question of what's best for this program. 4 or 5 years from now, when you look at where Georgia Tech is, will they be a team that just wins 6 to 7 games under Brent Key? Or will they be a team that played off the emotional roller coaster of what 2022 is? It carries over into 2023, but by 2024, the infrastructure is not there. There's another danger to this that concerns me. And yes, I'm playing devil's advocate. Under Paul Johnson, people got really, really comfortable with the fact that you didn't have to invest much because Johnson did a lot with a little. If Key continues to have success, the team goes to a bowl game, there is a worry in my head that maybe they don't feel the need to really go out and spend a lot of money because, hey, he turned things around. Jeff Collins was just so bad that it was an outlier. We can still operate like this. Now, that may not be what they're thinking. This is, once again, just playing devil's advocate in this situation. But if you play into that again, you're going to end up in a similar situation you were under Johnson, where you, not from the offensive standpoint where you're running an outdated offense, but more of the sense of where you're running an outdated program. You feel like you can be successful in what you're doing, but you've got to be able to turn and make changes and be able to make dynamic shifts to your program. And it could prolong some of the complacency that maybe some of the donor base has. Brent Key's done a fantastic job getting in the locker room, and I love it. I think it's fantastic to be able to see guys respond. We've seen it. I joked in a Twitter group that we've seen more social media presence out of the team than we have the past 3 years. And that's awesome to get an inside glimpse of what these kids think and how they feel. But Brent Key, is he the best option going forward for the next 4 or 5 years for the future of this program? The way that you'll make him successful is if, one, you do invest still in the program. If you have learned the lesson of the sense of he's great, but we've got to give him all the resources necessary to be and take this team to a 9-10 win program. I think it's overrated to say that you can't win at Georgia Tech. I think it's a lazy argument for people who don't pay attention to the program and the recruiting ground that Atlanta is. You should be able to recruit independently of some of the powerhouses and still field a bowl-eligible or more team. And obviously you have to have good developing coaches as well. If they keep Key, there's going to have to be a couple of things they're going to have to do to ensure that he has that success. One of them is you're going to have to invest in the program, whether it's from a facility standpoint, if you can do that, but also coaching-wise. Chip Long, we're seeing some of that. Can the offensive line continue to develop? It's a young group. Jordan Williams, obviously the veteran of that group. Do they develop and take a next step toward 2023? Now you feel more comfortable when the schedule lightens a little bit. Defensively, we're starting to also see that maybe Andrew Thacker wasn't the problem. That's an encouraging sign. Can you bring in some top assistant position coaches as well? Do those guys need to be replaced? I don't know. But you've got to give him the full disposal of resources to be able to make the decisions that he wants it to make. Brent Key can have success at Georgia Tech. Don't confuse this episode by me saying he can't. I just caution you to understand that if admin and donor base repeats the same thing that they did, it doesn't matter how much we like to see Brent Key go to the student section and get fired up. It doesn't matter how much we like to see certain things happen or certain people get excited. You're going to do the same thing over again. It's going to repeat a mistake, not with Jeff Collins, but more with Paul Johnson, is where you say, hey, he's doing a lot with a little. Why should I give any more? Why should I invest more in this? Why should we take this more seriously? And I think that's the question we all have to ask, is if Key is the route they go, yes, it's a safe option. Yes, you know you won't lose as much to the portal. Yes, you know that you've got a guy who's a grinder, and I like him, but you've got to equip him with the necessary resources and tools, and that's the question. Not as much of the staff, but as the administration. Will you do that? I think it's the question that we all have to ask as we get closer and closer to this season, because there's a very likely scenario he coaches himself and this team plays into him having the interim tag removed. And I know parents that would love to see that, and that's fantastic. That's great. I think talked with a parent of a player who said his kid came out after the game against Duke and said, we're just having fun. Clayton Powell-Lee said in the postgame press conference, we're having fun playing football once again. And that speaks volumes about the culture that he's created. And that word might have triggered you a little bit, but that's serious. But I think in order for Georgia Tech to be serious about football, they've got to give him the full disposal that they would give a Jamie Chadwell, a Dell McGee, an Alex Atkins, anybody who would come onto Georgia Tech's campus. You've got to treat him with the same, speaking of Brent Key, you have to treat Key with the same respect from an admin perspective that you would treat an incoming head coach. Because if not, you're bound to repeat the same mistake that's happened at Georgia Tech, specifically under Paul Johnson. You had success, but as it was well documented, there were things he needed / wanted, but he did so much with so little, there wasn't enough buy-in. I like where Georgia Tech is. I think that they got a real shot to go to a bowl game. We'll talk later on in the week kind of about that. Might have a special guest on as well to talk things about that. But this program's going places. They've just got to manage this little pocket correctly. And I think that it's going to be very important. What happens over the next 2 months will really set up Georgia Tech for whatever they decide to do for the next 4 to 5 years. Because, like we talked about, college football is evolving. And so you have to make sure that you have a plan in place, not just for this year, but for multiple years down the road. It'll be interesting to see what they do. My name is Bryce Koon. Make sure to follow us, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let us know down in the comments what you think about it below. Do you think Key's the right option? Does it concern you? Maybe should they go outside and look? We'll see. Things are clicking right now in the flats, and I want to throw this in there. Make sure to make your schedules. Next Thursday night, we're going to be doing a little meet and greet at the Virginia game. Come into my social media, DM me, let me know what you're doing. Make sure to make your plans to be at Bobby Dodd on Thursday night against Virginia. Hearing some rumors that there could be a Blackwatch game for the night environment at Bobby Dodd Stadium. It'd be a lot of fun as well. My name is Bryce Koon. This is Swarm Talk brought to you by the Crowded Booth. Check out the other videos on the channel. Let me know what you think down below. We'll see you next time.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.